The anime starts with the introduction of an 11-year-old boy named Ryoma Takabayashi, who lives in the forest with 1,000 slimes. One day, he hears strange voices and goes to investigate them, where he finds a group of soldiers, with one of them being severely injured. Ryoma decides to help them and provides the injured soldier, Hughes, with medicine and invites all of them over to his house to rest. As they're traveling back to Ryoma's home, they're attacked by a horde of green slimes. Talk about a sticky situation. However, Ryoma intervenes and the situation is resolved. Ryoma leads the man to his home. As they're introducing themselves, Ryoma explains that his grandparents, who taught him magic and died 3 years ago, and that he lives alone because the villagers don't trust outsiders. One of the soldiers, Camille, gives Ryoma a crystal ball to touch, which reveals that Ryoma is innocent and has no combat skills, but his other skills are off the charts. After Hughes recovers, the men thank Ryoma and head home. Here it's revealed that Ryoma feels guilty because he lied to the soldiers, as the person who died 3 years ago was none other than himself. Ryoma was a middle-aged Japanese office worker who lived a mundane life and overworked himself to death. He found out he died from hitting his head and having a brain hemorrhage due to sneezing. 3 gods approach Ryoma, named Khufu, Lulutina, and Gain, and tell him they will send him to another world in the body of an 8-year-old boy. Ryoma arrives in the new world, Nailfall, with a manual from the gods and a friendly slime. He makes the forest of Ghana his new home and has been living there for 2 or 3 weeks until soldiers and some other people return out of nowhere. Reinhardt arrives with his group alongside some more men and women, including his family, the Jamil household. He brought specifically his father, Reinbach Jamil, his wife, Elise Jamil, and daughter, Eliaria Jamil. Ryoma shows off some of his slime party tricks by combining slimes, and the people are impressed, including Lady Elise, who suggests Ryoma join the Tamers Guild. Reinhardt gifts Ryoma a Belova clock for his hospitality, but they have another reason for their visit. It turns out that Reinhardt's daughter, Eliaria, wants a pet slime but couldn't catch one. We all want a pet slime, right? Ryoma tells her about a slime catching spot and about the various types of slimes. She decides on a cleaner slime, a type of slime that removes all impurities and is used mostly to clean the body. After learning that she needs to capture and make it evolve into a cleaner slime, Eliaria succeeds in catching one. Lady Elise then asks Ryoma if he plans to keep living alone in the forest, and he says he hasn't decided yet. Reinbach ends up convincing Ryoma to come with them to their trip to Gamul, and joins the Jamil family and their companions on their journey. On a rainy day during their trip, Ryoma demonstrates his skill and uses rain block magic to clear the path while shielding the men from the downpour. They arrive at Gamul 3 days later. It's Ryoma's first time visiting a town. The Jamil household checks the mines of the town, which have become inefficient compared to before. Ryoma goes with the Jamil family to get a status board for himself at a local church. Suddenly, he gets transported into a realm of the gods, who are happy to see him. There are 3 gods named Kofu, Lulutina, and Gain. Ryoma learns that an ancestor of the Jamil family, Shiho Jamil, was a human who was transported to this magical realm. The deities also tell Ryoma that the other gods have noticed his talents, including the god of war, love that game, god of magic, and the god of craft and artisans. After receiving his status board, Reinhardt's father, Reinbach Jamil, advises him to keep his skills hidden and join a guild. Eliaria is impressed by Ryoma's magic capacity and asks him to teach her a few things, after which they both go to the Tamers Guild and register as Tamers. However, the guild ranks Tamers based on the strength of their monsters, which puts Ryoma as a low rank as a slime master. Reinbach suggests that Ryoma join the Adventurers Guild instead. The instructor and guild master, Worgen, tells Ryoma what he needs to do to join the guild and is impressed by his skills. As a result, Ryoma passes the test and becomes a rank G, the lowest rank member of the Adventurer Guild. Ryoma goes to find a job and finds an assistant to clean the house for a female cat-based kin named Mia Cat. Couldn't have guessed from her name. Ryoma finds out that Mia's house is overflowing with trash from a nearby dump. He uses his scavenging slimes to get rid of the garbage and his mist wash skill and cleaning slimes to clean the basement, and then uses create blocks to patch up the hole in the garage disposal plant and successfully finishes the job. Mia is ecstatic that her house is finally not a trash dump and increases Ryoma's pay. Who knew being a garbage boy pays so well? Ryoma is offered another job by Worgen to clean the dirty communal toilets, which the government has refused to pay someone to clean. If you live in Gamul and you pay tax with your hard-earned money, tough luck, because the town officials will most likely steal it. That's why the Adventurers Guild has to take all the dirty work. Ryoma has his slimes clean the toilets and discovers a large amount of miasma built up. Ryoma informs the Jamil family and Worgen about the miasma and decides to continue with the job to get rid of it and find the source. Despite their concerns for his safety, Ryoma is able to convince them to let him do the task by showing them his status board, basically saying he can't die easily, which we already knew because this is an anime and he's the protagonist, Ryoma works through the night and successfully cleans and sanitizes all 30 toilets. Guess you could say he flushed out the competition. Ryoma then returns to the Jamil household. Ryoma wakes up to Eliaria making breakfast for him, but little does he know it's all a front to make him help her with magic. Ryoma decides to help her and other members of the house. Sebes, Camille, and Elise join in, and they have a group training session. Cue anime training montage. The next day, the group heads to the abandoned North Camille mine to train Eliaria in monster combat because it's a noble duty. They manage to defeat a few monsters, and Eliaria captures a metal slime, which she gives to Ryoma as a gift. The mine hasn't been yielding much because monsters have taken over. The Jamil household takes this issue to the Adventurers Guild. Later, after going into town, Reinbach takes Ryoma to the Morgan Trading Company, and Ryoma shows off his alchemy and cloth skills to Sergeant Morgan. However, Ryoma doesn't want to share his secrets out of fear of being used as a tool for profit, but Reinhardt convinces him to trust Sarge, and they strike a deal. The next day at the Adventurers Guild, Morgan announces that those involved in the communal toilet embezzlement have been arrested, and the adventurers have a new mission to get rid of the monsters in the mineshafts. Ah yes, tax fraud gets priority over monster hunting. Ryoma gets ready to join the Adventurers Guild in their mission to clear the mines and gathers all his slimes, including a new metal slime. As they head to the mineshafts, they encounter some monsters, but Ryoma makes quick work of them with his spells and slimes, rendering them paralyzed. On their way out, they run into a group of adventurers who were injured by a mob of goblins. Some of them were injured, but they were able to discuss valuable information, which leads Ryoma and the group to form an all-out attack plan against the goblins. After a battle with many injured, they defeat the goblins, and it seemed that they had won. But of course, this is an anime after all, so a giant goblin with his group of countless little hobgoblins arrives, and doesn't let them relax even for a second. Ryoma steps up with his slimes and battles them out, and ends up victorious. Once they reach outside, the adventurers thank Ryoma for saving their lives. Everyone gets a pay raise since the problem was much worse than expected. On their way back to town, the adventurers have many slimy questions, and Ryoma has many slimy answers. In the end, as everyone says their farewells, Mia suggests to Ryoma that he could make an impressive fortune by running a laundry service with his slimes. This gives him the idea to separate from the Jamil family and become independent. You knew this show was about establishing a startup in a magical world after all. Ryoma thanks the family for their generosity. The Jamil family is saddened, especially Eliaria, but understands the situation as they cannot deny Ryoma the right to grow. Reinbach informs the family about a possible new mission for the Adventurers Guild, and Ryoma tells the family about his plans for his laundry business venture. The entire Jamil household unanimously agrees to help Ryoma, unlike what my family did when I told them about my business ventures. Ryoma goes with Eliaria the next day to talk to Sarge Morgan, who agrees to help him, and also advises him to join the Merchant Guild. Ryoma, Morgan, and Eliaria go to the Merchants Guild and talk to Glycella, the guild master. Glycella agrees to help on the condition she chooses the building and location of the business, and sends them to a location. They arrive there to find an old, destroyed building. Perfect place for a laundry service. Morgan has his doubts, but Ryoma sees the potential. Before long, Ryoma's bamboo forest laundry service is open for business. Later, while walking through town, he decides to go to church, presumably trying to gain a blessing for his new business. In the church, he's transported and meets one of the gods, Kofu. Apparently, the other two gods are on a sightseeing tour on Earth, especially Lulutsinia buying sweets and Gain going to a J-pop concert. You know, imagining a god listening to Hatsune Miku isn't so far-fetched after all. Kofu reveals that due to the stark difference between his mental and physical age, Ryoma is undergoing infinite regression. Their time to talk is cut short, however, and Ryoma acknowledges that he feels more emotion than before. Morgan arrives and brings a pair of twins. Carla and Kalam Norad arrive at the shop, being highly impressed that this is the work of an 11-year-old. Ryoma is busy helping the maids preparing the feast for opening the shop. Morgan introduces the twins to Ryoma as his new employees, and Ryoma shows them around the shop. The feast is a success and everything goes as planned. However, the twins have this cold and stoic behavior that makes Ryoma uneasy and unsure if they want to continue working here. However, it turns out the twins had doubted Ryoma, but those doubts turn into admiration for his work ethic and personality, so they would love to continue the job. Turns out they're just socially inept, like most of us. The following day, Ryoma and Eliaria go to the Adventurers Guild, leaving the twins in charge of the laundry shop. It turns out, due to the help of Mia and Walana, the adventurers know about Ryoma's new business and it's gained a reputation. Later on, Ryoma takes the job of collecting herbs while patrolling the mines, after which he heads back to his shop. There he finds that long lines have formed as his business is in huge demand. and so he goes to hire more workers. Ryoma goes to Galacia and goes through the candidates, but not many people want to work with him besides a couple, Faye and Li Ling. In the interview, Ryoma is suspicious since they're carrying weapons. It turns out that they are former assassins who stopped after Li got injured in his leg. An interesting career switch. You can definitely say their resumes are diverse. After explaining their situation, Ryoma hires them on the spot and heals Li's leg with his slimes. The next day, Ryoma discusses with Eliaria about their adventures. Ryoma decides to hire new people and people to cook for his employees, setting a new standard for workplace morale that our managers can only hope to achieve. The next day, he hires Mari, Fina, and Jane as employees, with Miss Selma being hired to cook for them. This makes everyone happy. Later, Ryoma is advised by Galacia to branch out and open a new shop in another town. Ryoma has his reservations with the idea as he feels it's too early, but the prospect excites him. With everything taken care of and his business being self-sustaining, Ryoma decides to take a new mission for the Adventurers Guild. Serge Morgan calls Ryoma to discuss a new business opportunity as the season of Grell Fogs is near, and waterproof fabric will be essential for adventurers, to which Ryoma agrees. Classic supply and demand, baby. Ryoma, during a conversation with Eliaria, decides to work at the mines where he will not be disturbed. The next day, Eliaria joins him at the mines because she wants to practice the violin to tame a lemur bird. Ryoma also ends up making a rock doll for Eliaria, but later at home for the entire Jamil household. The next day, Ryoma goes to the mines and continues work on the fabric. After making a batch and some combat training, his slime evolves into an iron slime instead of a metal slime, since he only fed it iron. He then returns to the laundry to find that his cleaner slimes have divided and the profits have tripled. Ryoma is obviously enthralled and realizes he should have set a proper workplace holiday policy. The workers are relieved to know that the laundry won't take advantage of them. Workplace precedents that Amazon could learn from. During a visit to the Adventurers Guild the next day, Ryoma learns of a rare slime in the possession of a group of adventurers from out of town, called Pier of Sikkim. One of the adventurers, Thane, is apprehensive at first, but quickly gives in, saying that they have heard that rare slimes are a commodity, but no one wants to buy their slime. Ryoma meets the leader of the group, Shin, and his sidekick Kai, where they make a deal to buy the slime for 2 gold coins. Ryoma also advises the party to earn money by hunting grell frogs and tells them about the laundry shop, a financial advisor at age 11. Stardom young. It turns out the slime is a bloody slime and it has a vampire's ability to suck out blood of creatures. After finishing the day, Ryoma is visited by the 3 gods and they're thankful for him for coming into this world as it was not a mistake. Later in his room, Ryoma is invited by Eliaria to learn taming magic and he agrees. Elise, Reinhardt, and Reinbach are teaching Ryoma and Eliaria about taming magic at an undisclosed location. Elise explains that they'll be learning shared sensation magic, which is based on the link between a tamer and their tamed monster. They talk about various types of magic. Reinhardt and Reinbach provide additional information about the magic, and Ryoma compares it to a VR game he used to play on Earth. They then train using their shared sensation magic, after which they take a tea break where they discuss the affinities of tamers and various types of creatures they tame. A few days later, Ryoma and Eliaria continue practicing shared sensation magic and performing their personal work in the mines. The Jamal family decides to visit the Serge Morgan store to purchase special equipment for hunting grell frogs, which are expected to appear in the area in 3 to 4 days. Ryoma plans to attract lemur birds by playing music on his guitar in order to tame them, but Ryoma and Eliaria set out with Eliaria's family and bodyguards to tame lemur birds, and they run into Shin and his party on the way, where they exchange apologies and advice. Ryoma rejoins Eliaria and they see a flock of lemur birds flying away from the lake. Ryoma's adventurer friends are also present and they witness a tamer failing to tame some lemur birds. After a scuffle with the tamer, one of the birds makes a screeching sound that Ryoma is immune to, allowing him to locate the source and cast Silent on the bird. The bird escapes with its fellows, but Reinbach takes control of the situation, with Camille tending to the tamer and Jill, Zeph, and Hughes taking care of the other adventurers. Reinhardt explains that the noise was made by a nightmare lemur bird, a monster that can use both dark and wind magic. Ryoma thinks he was immune to the attack due to his high resistance to mental pain. Despite the absence of any more lemur birds, Eliaria is determined to stay and wait for their return. As dusk approaches, Ryoma's group continues waiting for the lemur birds. Eliaria mentions that she and Ryoma will soon go their separate ways, leaving Ryoma flustered. Elise intervenes and responds for Ryoma, making Eliaria happy and prompting her to ask Ryoma to write her often. Hughes interrupts and suggests that Ryoma kiss Eliaria, but he's punched by Ryoma for the suggestion. Subtle as always, Hughes, the best wingman one could ask for. Just then, the lemur birds return along with the nightmare lemur bird. Eliaria plays her violin for the lemur birds, attacking a flock of them and taming them all. Ryoma then plays his guitar and attracts a flock of his own, including the nightmare lemur bird. It's revealed that one of Eliaria's birds is an even rarer phantom lemur bird. Back in town, a banquet is held to celebrate Eliaria's successful taming of the lemur birds and Ryoma's departure. That night, Eliaria Eliaria, Ryoma, and his slimes have a heart-to-heart conversation about an incident from Eliaria's past. Eliaria gives Ryoma a ruby necklace with magical properties that she received from her mother when she was 10. Ryoma initially tries to decline the gift due to its value, but Eliaria insists and explains that he is just holding on to it for her. Ryoma formally accepts the gift, and in return, he gives Eliaria a cleaner and scavenger slime. The next day, Ryoma says goodbye to the Jamil family, their attendees and bodyguards. Gain, Kufo, and Lulutia watch the group's departure and share their thoughts on Ryoma's current situation. With that, the beautiful anime ends for now, and that's the end of the video. As always, if you liked what you saw, subscribe to the channel. I'll be uploading a lot of videos just like this, so I'll see you at the next one.